What's going on, everybody? Gem Mint here, and you know what time it is. It's time to count down our top 10 favorite comics of the week, and I got my co-host with me, Rockin Robbie Billups.
What's up, Jim? I'm super excited to be here. Happy belated birthday, by the way, and I'm always excited about comic books, but more importantly, to talk with you about comic books. Station.
Well, thank you, Robbie. I appreciate it. Before we get started, let me give a quick shout out to the sponsor of this video, THATSPIDERMANBOOTH.com. They have the $30 mystery boxes where you get 5 comics of retail value, and one lucky box is going to have their GP, their giveaway prize of this amazing Spider-Man 129, graded at a 4.0 by CGC, the first appearance of the Punisher. We made a little change to the Gem Mint code as well. It's no longer a one-time use per customer. You can use that code to save 10% anytime you use it. Also, their sister site, Street Level Hero, SLHLA.com, has exclusive variant covers with new covers every Tuesday and Thursday. Plus, they have a ton of swag that you can shop for. Using that code GEMMINT will save you 10% for life there as well. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss a video. The 150K subscriber giveaway is going to be announced real soon, so you don't want to miss it. Robbie, let's get us started.
All right, let's do this. And remember, Geminites and PCP Army, full-on spoilers for the books we're discussing. My number 10 is Resonant, number 10 from Vault Comics, written by D.B. Andre with artwork by Skylar Patridge and coloring, amazing coloring by Jason Wordie, lettering by Darren Bennett. I have loved this series. It's survival horror at its finest. It's about a family in a post-apocalyptic situation. The father is separated from his family, and he goes through this odyssey, if you will, this trek. Now, this is a book that was designed to end at any time, but of course it could have gone on and on and on. Unfortunately, this is the last issue, and what I like about it is that it doesn't feel rushed. This book is fantastic, and I've never seen a book where the lettering and the coloring work so well together with the line work to make it feel almost audible, because this is a book about a wave that hits, and when a wave hits, your innermost, darkest desires start coming out. So you can't trust anybody. If you missed out on Resonant the first time, now it's a complete series, you should definitely check it out.
Yeah, I happened to miss this one. It sounds like something that's right up my alley. Gonna have to trade weight that one out. My number 10, I went with Heroes Reborn, issue 7 by Jason Aaron and crew. I'm digging this series, man. It's a super fun Elseworlds tale about Squadron Supreme being the main avenging team in the Marvel Universe. There's no Avengers here, and there's just so many crazy little differences. They talk about Civil War and how it was Hyperion versus, what's his name, Robbie? Is it Nightwing? That's right, I was never a Squadron Supreme guy growing up, but also referencing how Nighthawk has the symbiote still, and all these kind of like changes to the Marvel Universe. And then we have the emergence of the Avengers. Power Princess knows that something isn't quite right, and she's trying to gather up the Squadron Supreme to figure out who the Avengers are, what's this body that was dug out of the ice, and then we get some major Phil Coulson stuff, or should I say President Phil Coulson, who seems to have made a deal with the devil in order to have this world created. Super interested to see how this wraps up in Heroes Return, issue 1.
Oh yeah, Heroes Return number 1. I believe that's coming out next week. It's going to wrap this all up. It didn't quite make my top 10, Jim, but I absolutely I'm loving this book, and it's been a big surprise. I am a Squadron Supreme fan. I'll even overlook the one-shot nature of it as an event because it's been pretty fun. And if you're sitting in there watching all these Marvel Disney Plus shows, just begging, just oozing at the teeth, whatever that means. But if you're just begging for Mephisto to show up, all you have to do is read Heroes Reborn, because even though they've been teasing it, it's going to happen.
Moving on to my number 9, I went with Stillwater, issue 8 by Chip Zdarsky, Ramon K. Perez, and Mike Spicer. This issue picked up a lot for me where I felt the prior issue was a little lackluster. This one goes into depth of the sheriff of Stillwater, goes into her past, how she became the sheriff, and what transpired so that she's no longer the sheriff. I want to say the sheriff of Nottingham. Anyway, I definitely am digging the lore and the mythologies of Stillwater. They get into how they work as a city because they're part of a larger state. So how come they don't report homicides? What's going on that we never hear from Stillwater? And you kind of see how the bureaucracy is handled here. And it's just a really fun issue. It does give me Walking Dead vibes a lot. It's not post-apocalyptic, but kind of the interaction between people going through this event, this city where nobody ever ages.
Great thoughts, Jim. It's kind of about the distrust that's there between the community that's boiling over the surface. I love this issue. It's a bit higher on my list, so I'll speak more on it then. But my number 9 was Fantastic Four number 33. Fantastic Four has been my favorite comic book since I was like 5 years old. I have always loved this book. The time that they didn't publish Fantastic Four really saddened me. And then when they brought it back, I was very excited. But Dan Slott, I can give, it's give or take with him, right? But this is really good. Dan Slott's really come into his own, maybe because he gets to focus on this one. The artwork by R.B. Silva is pretty good, though a bit rushed feeling in this issue. But this is the wedding of Dr. Doom. But the problem is that Johnny Storm slept with the bride the night before the wedding. And if you think that those hijinks are going to come out in the wedding, you are sadly, sorely mistaken. This book was fantastic. It really feels classic. It doesn't feel fresh and new, but it feels like a new version of the classic comic.
I don't know why I didn't pick up Fantastic Four like when it first came out. I ended up getting like the first 13 issues off of Midtown Comics, and I just never read them. Hopefully we get an omnibus, because Marvel seems to really like to do Dan Slott omnibus, except for Spider-Man for whatever odd reason. But this is one that I would definitely love to read, probably once it's all completed.
Oh, I totally feel you on that. For my number 8, I'm going Demon Days Mariko from Peach Momoko and Marvel Comics. I absolutely love this book. I wasn't looking that much forward to it. It's a reimagining, a retelling of X-Men in the midst of Japanese folklore or something like that. I love it. Now, I knew that Peach Momoko can make pretty, beautiful images, but the question was, can she tell a story? Can she do a good job sequentially? Can she make it have emotional impact but still be exciting? Yes, she can. I'm loving this book. The initial one-shot came out like a couple months ago. This is going to continue to be developed in a series of one-shots, but I'm loving it. I love the whimsical fairy tale nature of the story. I love using familiar faces like the Black Widow, like the X-Men characters, but it is very distinctly Momoko and very distinctly fantasy.
Just like you said on your new comic book day reviews, I wasn't going to pick this up, but then I was like, man, I really liked that other one shot. It was refreshing and totally felt like Peach Momoko's own style. She's a great artist, but the story feels like she's definitely drawing inspiration from her culture, from her background. You have this kind of like colorized manga type of story that has X-Men lore sprinkled within. And also I like the Japanese nods, like the Oni, and how Mariko is the daughter of an Oni. She was trained by Natasha Romanoff. I'm talking a lot about this book. I mean, it didn't make my list, but it was an enjoyable read for sure. My number 8, I went with Supergirl issue 1 by Tom King. I forget the whole subtitle. Robbie, you'll talk about it when it's on your list. But I had high hopes for this. I guess because Tom King's Miracle Man, his Omega Men, his Batman, Catwoman that I'm digging right now, Rorschach, it did feel a little slow in the beginning. Basically, you have Supergirl celebrating her birthday. It's her 21st birthday, so she went to a planet that has a red sun so she could get drunk. That makes sense. Then you have this other character who they kind of spend, in my opinion, too much time on in the beginning, talking about how her father was murdered by this the neighborhood thief. It kind of reminded me like Debo. He doesn't look like Debo, but he's like the neighborhood menace or whatever. And she's trying to get her revenge on this guy and trying to hire mercenaries. She hires this guy. He ends up being a real jerk. And then she comes across Supergirl, and Supergirl kind of being a jerk as well. She's not here to do that. She's really drunk and throwing up everywhere. Anyway, it really hooked me at the end when Supergirl tries to go back to her spacecraft with Krypto to get the hell out of there. And the girl shows up, the jerk mercenary that she hired, and Supergirl ends up taking some arrows to the chest. Krypto, does he die? I don't know. John Wick's gonna come for that ass if he did. But then the mercenary guy takes off unknowingly in the spaceship, and now she's got to get him and the spaceship back. So he hooked me at the end, but it would have been higher on my list if it wasn't as slow in the beginning.
I can totally get your thoughts on Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow by Tom King. I'll share my thoughts a little bit later, because it's a little bit higher on my list.
My number 7, I went with Legends of the Dark Knight, issue 2 by Derek Robertson, and I didn't even know. Robbie just let me know off screen that he's the same artist from Transmetropolitan and The Boys. I didn't really like issue 1. I mean, I liked the vibe of it, but issue 2, I thought it really picked up, man. The art style is great. It feels like late 80s Batman. You have legacy villains like the Joker and the Riddler, and just the narration, how descriptive Derek is when speaking through Bruce and what he's going through while he's fighting, while he's getting hurt, while he's being trapped. His conflict on whether he should give CPR or mouth to mouth to the Joker as he pulls him up out of Gotham Harbor or whatever it is. And he does. I wouldn't give Joker mouth to mouth. First of all, you're doing everyone a favor if you let him die, and he battles himself with that. Like if I let him die, I'm gonna save hundreds of people. So that was dope. The Riddler interaction was dope. I like how they gave him this riddle. I think it was I'm sure it was Commissioner Gordon, and it doesn't look like Riddler. It's a little too straightforward, and then boom, come to find out, we are introduced to a new villain, not Riddler, but it's a female character named The Quiz. I thought it was interesting with great art style. It felt like late 80s Batman comics.
You know, I'm a big fan of Derek Robertson, so I'm super excited to see him get to do the Batman Rogues Gallery and Batman. This is a book that's perfect for people that maybe not digging on Detective Comics or what Tynan's doing over at Batman right now. If you don't like the new characters, if you don't like the new stories, this is something a bit more familiar, using characters you already know. And at the same time, like you said, introducing a new character tied in to the Riddler. I think it's a really solid book. It was digital first, but now this is the first appearance of a new villain in print. Who knows where that's going to lead? Probably nowhere, but great art and a really solid story. For my number 7, I'm going to go with Stillwater number 8. You already talked about this a little bit. I loved this issue. Introducing this new character, or I don't remember, have we seen her before, Jim? I don't really remember that, but knowing the origins of this sheriff of Stillwater and her motivations for getting involved. And it was different than we thought that maybe it was going to be. As I'm reading this issue, I'm like, where are they going with this story? But once I saw where it was going, it just blew me away. Chip Zdarsky has been doing such a great job in this story. And like you said, it's got that feeling of a post-apocalyptic story because of the distrust throughout the community that's being bred because all these people are coming in. This is a town where people don't die, where people don't age. So many people would want to be in on this secret, and it just brews the worst trouble out of these people when they start mistrusting each other. The artwork by Ramon K. Perez, to me, is just absolutely magnificent. That coloring by Spicer, and who knows who the letterer is, but he does a solid good job.
Come on, Robbie, it's Russ Wooten, the same guy who does Firepower.
Damn, I'm ashamed, but I learn at the feet of the master. For my number 6, I'm going Static, Season 1 from DC Comics. Milestone Returns, baby. This is something that people have been waiting decades for, bruh, and I hope they are a little bit satisfied. I don't have a lot of a connection to the Milestone stuff. I didn't read too much of it growing up, and I didn't really watch the Static Shock cartoon, but I really like this. The only thing I would say is that the Milestone Returns one-shot, you kind of have to read. It starts this story, but I love the artwork. I thought the story was pretty solid. It's a decent updating of the origin of Static Shock for me. It feels a bit more of the moment, a bit more connected to what's going on politically and socially right now. That may not appeal to too many people, maybe too much on the nose, but I really enjoyed it. I thought the characterizations were great, and the artwork was fantastic throughout. The only problem is you have to read that Milestone Returns one-shot first.
You know, when I was putting my pull list together to give to my LCS, I totally didn't even see this book, or else I would have gave it a shot. Anyway, my number 6, I went with Radiant Black, issue 5 by Kyle Higgins and a ton of other creators. There's like 6 names on the cover. Man, so last issue, they kill off the main character. The character who was the superhero who was being built up for these 4 issues. Now his best friend took over the mantle. Now they did pull a little escape route and he's not really dead. However, I like how the friend is still Radiant Black. This is a very flashy book. It's very reminiscent of Power Rangers, especially at the end where we see a blue, a yellow, a pink, all these different Radiant Blacks, and a kind of a showdown with what was made to be the villain the whole time, this red Radiant Black character who ends up being a female character, and maybe she's not as bad as she seems. Anyway, I'm digging this much more than I'm digging the Power Ranger stuff right now. It's still exciting, but I know, Robbie, you kind of had that concern of not really having killed off the main character like we thought in the last issue.
Yeah, I was concerned about that because I hate when they blow you away and they do something like that and they kill the main character. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, maybe he's not dead. And I got really worried about that. But I like that they kept the idea of this new guy, his friend, being Radiant Black. The only thing is this book is so up and down for me. When it first started, I was like, okay, Kyle Higgins, it seems like it could be Power Ranger-y, and then it wasn't, and I was kind of happy. Then I was like, oh, it's getting bogged down in the writer's block. Then they had that last issue, and I was like, whoa, so I was supremely excited to read this one, and then I read it, I got to the end, I was like, oh, so he really is just doing Power Rangers again. Well, me.
Yeah, I kind of figured you were going to say that, and it's true, but I'm still having a lot of fun. My issue 5, I went with a Silver Coin issue 3. This book continues to be an exciting, fun, horror type of book. They do something different with the Silver Coin every time. It's an anthology series. This time, you get a lot of development in just one issue. This girl who's kind of tagging along on this home invasion. The old man living there looks like he has a heart attack or something, and now they're kind of freaking out, but they burn the house down with him dead inside anyway. She comes across this silver coin, causes a car accident, and is kind of just drawn to this supernatural character who's like, I don't know, kind of having her bring him the coin. I'm curious if this person is going to end up showing up in other issues or not, because if he doesn't, I don't know, it just kind of is like, who the hell is that character? But anyway, it's a fun horror type story. It's got nice gritty art style to it, and kind of always has like a hook at the end.
You know, I actually like this book. I thought it was kind of executed well. The only problem was this isn't an ongoing story, right? It's an anthology, so each story's different. But so far, they haven't really tied together outside of this silver coin. The only problem is, if this doesn't come back around, this book is meaningless, and kind of I don't understand what the purpose of it was. But if it comes back around in a few issues, it's going to be genius. And then I'll say it's my number 5 of this week. But for now, my number 5 is Berserker, number 3. I am loving this book. It is direct. It is not subtle in any kind of way. It is violent. It is brutal. It is bloody. It is gory. It is just everything I love about that part of comic books, where we're just getting to see faces getting punched through and stuff like that. I love Ron Garney's really gritty, rough textured artwork. I really think it's very appropriate for the story. Gives me vibes of Frank Miller and Klaus Janson when they work together. I think Matt Kent's doing a great job too of introducing this character and this concept. It's a familiar idea. It's a bit Wolverine with just a little bit more fantastical of the background, and we get that background here. But I'm just loving the way that even though it's just straight up violence, there is a little bit of character nuance thread throughout by Matt Kent. I cannot wait to see Keanu Reeves play this character, and that's the most exciting thing to me about it. Plus, those foil covers, and they give me 2? Bruh, I don't like double dipping, but for foil, I will.
It's all about that foil. I'm loving this book as well. It's a little bit higher on my list, so I'll give my thoughts when we get there.
All right, my number 4 is Time Before Time, number 2. Jim, I'm a little bit different than you. I think I love this more than issue number 1. It clarified some of the stuff I didn't quite get in the first issue. Maybe it's because I was reading too much. Maybe I was reading through it too fast. But the idea that chunks of time are turf for crime gangs, I really love that. And now I understand more about why these dudes wanted to get out. And now they're stuck in this other time zone that's another time gang's turf. I'm loving this book. I think it's imaginative. I think it's clever. I love timey-wimey type stuff like that. Super sci-fi, high concept, but with a little bit of that blue-collar crime to it, right? You son of a bitch. I am in on this book.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think I just had such high expectations. I loved issue 1. Issue 2 was good. I still liked it. It wasn't like it was whack. It just didn't make my top 10. And yeah, I like when they show up and they're like, oh crap, if this is around 2104 to 2201, we're really screwed because that's the Rockin Robbie gang's turf or something like that. Yeah, I like the mythologies. They even kind of played with time in the same way that the MCU does, right? Like something won't cause a paradox if you like pluck a leaf off of a tree or something like that. Whatever happens is going to happen no matter what. They don't really explain how. Maybe it's the universe works itself out or something, but I'm still on board for this series for sure. My number 4, I went with Nightwing 81 by Tom Taylor, Bruno Redondo. This book is probably going to make my top 10 every time it comes out. It's just so excellent. It's such a refreshing book to read. We got to figure out who this colorist is. Tom Taylor's writing is very interesting, intriguing. He goes from the heartless man who's taking the hearts out of homeless people to this new mayor who's Tony Zuko's daughter, only to have a huge twist at the end that she found out that she's not really biologically Tony Zuko's daughter, and she's actually a Grayson. She's actually Dick's sister. Super interesting. The color palette is amazing on here. The art style is, like I said, so refreshing, and I'm just loving this series.
You know, I'm loving this series as well, and for some reason it didn't make my top 10. That's a big oversight on my side, to be honest with you, looking at my list. I think it should have made it. It was a great wrap-up to this initial arc. but setting up what's to come. It was a bit soap operatic. Maybe that's the thing I didn't like so much, was the whole, I'm your sister, dun dun dun. But my favorite thing about the book, aside from the art and the flow and just the fact that this is a start of a classic run on the character of Dick Grayson, is it just kept that Weekend song stuck in my head.
'Cause I'm heartless, and I'm back to my ways 'cause I'm heartless.
See, it always makes me think of Kanye. To a woman so heartless. Anyway, my number 3 was Berserker. Number 3, Keanu Reeves. Whoever else is creating this with him, it's excellent. Brutalities and fatalities, no friendships in this book. But besides it being a gory, battle-filled slugfest, they also have some real, character building traits that they're working with. As the main character, as a child, he went from an infant to a man in 2 years. His family's basically just using them to further along their goals and aspirations, totally destroying all the villages that's surrounding them, and then taking it one step further and just going after the richest, biggest village that's not even a threat to them. And the Berserker characters, he realizes this, but he's just a boy that wants to make his family, his father and his mother, proud of him. Then flash forward to the beginning, he's still being used as a weapon and a tool, and you feel sorry for him. You feel sad, especially because he's kind of Winter Soldier-ish, where it seems like after every mission they're zapping his brain, trying to get some information of his past out of him, and it kind of just numbs him a little bit. I don't know, man, but I'm definitely digging Berserker.
Great points on Berserker. Of course, it was a little bit lower on my list, but I'm loving this book. And yeah, if this dude is tired after 2 years, at 2 years old, what's going to happen when he's 10,000? That's what we're seeing now. It's going to break. Berserker is great.
Would you like some making Berserker?
Did he just say making? For my number 3, I'm going with Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow number 1. You didn't like it as much as I did, but I thought it was fantastic. First of all, I'm a big fan of Eve Lee's artwork. She was the artist on The Dreaming by Simon Spurrier, as well as Matt Lopez on the coloring. I think artistically it was great. It had this nice rough texture to it that I'm unaccustomed to seeing in a Supergirl book. Tom King's basically giving us a space fantasy version of True Grit here, with the character of John Wayne being played by Supergirl. Like you said, Supergirl trying to get drunk on her 21st birthday. She winds up on a world with a red sun, no powers, and she gets stuck there. I'm excited to see where this is going to go. You can already see that dynamic between those characters. It's an 8-issue series, and when Tom King's given something short and sweet like that, he usually excels pretty well, so I'm in this for the long haul. I think he's going to do a great job, but I swear, if they kill Krypto, I'm done, I revolt, and I'll sell all my Supergirl comics.
If they kill Krypto, we riot.
Word. My number 2 is Venom number 200. Yo. I was a little down on King in Black number 5. I was like, it was a predictable ending. If this is the big finale of Donny Cates' Venom run, then I think it's kind of lackluster. No. I knew that there was one more issue to come. I hoped that this would be a big epilogue and not just a big celebratory anniversary issue with a bunch of artists and writers coming in doing a bunch of different stories that don't matter. That's not what this was. Every page on this book matters. Now, there is a whole bunch of artists, which leads to a little bit of inconsistency for me in the artwork, but every single one of these artists is somebody crucial and integral to the history of this character. So I thought it was rather appropriate. This was a super packed, extra-sized issue that just completely landed the plane on the ending of Donny Cates' Venom and set up something so different, so new. I don't want to spoil it fully yet because I know that you're going to be talking about it. But yo, with the way this book ends, I could be nervous. But you know who the new writers are? Al Ewing and Ram V. Yo, it's in good hands. Venom, the ending by Donny Cates and Brian Stegman and company. Superb station, baby.
You know it's on my list for sure, but number 2, I gotta talk about Planet-Size X-Men number 1. And Robbie, I'm shocked this wasn't on your list. I love this issue so much. I almost gave it pick of the week, but I said, you know what? Donny Cates stuck the landing. I'll talk about that next. Planet-Size X-Men. The mutants, Elon Musking it, terraforming Mars. I'm going to say transforming Mars, which they are. I like how they're taking all these mutants and using their powers to terraform this planet from the core to the atmosphere to everything, just so they can get Arakko and their 1 million mutant strong army the hell off of Earth and give them their own planet. This has major consequences for the Marvel 616 moving forward. Mars is an inhabited planet. It belongs to Arakko. It belongs to the mutants. And I like how at the end, you have the transcripts from NASA. They're kind of like, yeah, you gave it to Arakko. That's really great. We didn't really talk about this, but, you know, as kind of Magneto mentions, like, humans were still generations away from being able to accomplish that. They accomplished what Mother Nature would have taken a millennia to do in a couple of days. The Hellfire Gala, say what you will about the costumes, what are those? But I really dug Planet-Sized X-Men and what they did with that whole terraforming of Mars.
You know, I actually really liked Planet-Sized X-Men. I thought it was super solid, but I did want to highlight Fantastic Four on this list. That's probably where it would have landed, but I knew that you were going to put it on there because you liked it so much. It is a big, game-changing moment for the mutants to have their own world, to take Mars. And, you know, even though this one's not written by Hickman, we know that Hickman's the head of X, whatever that means. That means he's the helmet that Xavier's wearing. What if that's the whole thing? Conspiracy theory time. What if Hickman himself is the helmet that Xavier is wearing? Anyway, Hickman's got this thing about Mars. You got to see it in his Avengers world, or his Avengers run, where the Aleph and his people were trying to terraform Mars. Like, Hickman wants us to terraform Mars, right? And I really liked this issue. I thought it was solid. It felt big. It felt, you know, epic, but it just felt a little bit disjointed for me, but definitely worth praise.
And then on to my number one. I kind of spoiled it, but if you watch my new comic book day reviews, you knew it was coming. I'm giving it to Venom 200. Donny Cates, Ryan Stegman, the end of King in Black, let us know that Eddie Brock was going to be the new King in Black. He's ascended to godhood. So what does that mean? It means, first of all, he's got a hive mind full of millions of free roaming symbiotes that are helping the universe. I don't know if it's multiverse. As far as we know, it's the universe. It's taking its toll on Eddie. He's now an old man, Eddie Brock, with a big white beard and everything. But what happens? The Avengers want him to join the team, but he's too busy, so he's got Flash Thompson coming back as Agent Anti-Venom. Then we see Dylan and Eddie kind of have a tough relationship now because Eddie's so focused on his godhood duties and Dylan's a teenager, the Venom symbiote turning into a dog and walking him to school, kind of being like the other parent. And then you got the sleeper cat doing like cat shit, which I thought that was really funny. And I didn't really see it right away, but in hindsight, you could see that it was destined for the Venom symbiote and Dylan to become the new Venom. And they become the new Venom with chains, y'all, straight Spawn style, chains around the wrists. And that's what's going to be moving forward. I guess that's what Ron V and Al Ewing are going to be writing, the Dylan Brock Venom story, which, yo, I'm with it. We've had Eddie Brock. A lot of fans are going to be sour that Eddie is not Venom, but where could you take him after what Donnie did in King in Black? So I thought it was interesting, and I loved that interaction with Eddie Brock and Peter Parker, Eddie Brock and the Guardians and the Avengers, and he's just so confident. He's ascended to this godhood status to where he could just rock at a table with anyone.
Yeah, I love the ending. I thought that this was such a perfect capsulation, like a great coda to the entire run Donny Cates has been doing with the character. And you're right. Where do you take Eddie Brock after this? And I was very shocked and surprised because at first I flipped through it and I was like, oh, so this is like set in the future. No, man, it's wearing down on Eddie. And with Dylan being the new Venom, that kind of bothers me. It worries me just a little bit. The chains are cool, but are they just going to be on his wrists? Is he going to use them as new webs? That would be super freaking cool, right?
He was,
right? Okay. So like, I would be worried with a Venom without Eddie Brock being the main Venom and it being his kid Venom. Like, we got teenage Venom now. We got kid Venom coming up. I would be nervous about that. But we got Rom V coming on that title, as well as Al Ewing. And speaking of Rom V, my number one, The Many Deaths of Layla Starr, number 3, written by Rom V. I am such a fan of this dude's work. He is writing circles around other people. He's able to do so much with so little. This is a story about Death. Death has been fired from her job because a human boy has been born that will eventually bring immortality to humanity. She now is cursed with immortal life, and she's hunting down this kid to kill him. But every time she comes across this kid, she doesn't quite realize it. And each chapter is giving us a little bit of a different point in this kid's life, because when she dies, it takes her a few years to reincarnate. This one is a fantastic issue that once again is an exploration of death and grief loss, love, and hope, how it can fall apart, how it can come together, and how we hold that with ourselves throughout the rest of our lives, and how death has a major effect on that. And the entire issue, as whimsical, as deep, as nuanced, as rich in texture as it is, with great psychedelic at time artwork, the entire issue is told from the point of view of a cigarette. Of a cigarette. If you told me that, I would be like, that's the dumbest idea ever. But the way Rom V makes it work feels so poetic, so eloquent, it just has to be my pick of the week. A great ballin' list of books this week, but for me, Many Deaths of Layla Starr continues to take top notch.
You know what they say, Robbie? Smoke 'em if you got 'em. That's going to wrap up our top 10 comics of this week, y'all. Let us know what your favorite comics were in the comments down below. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss these videos. Robbie, let them know where they can find you.
You can find us at Pop Culture Philosophers on Instagram, Facebook, and of course here on YouTube. Subscribe up so you don't miss a single video. We do weekly comic book reviews, movie reviews, and we have great conversations all the time.
And don't go anywhere. Check out my new comic book day reviews if you missed them, and check out last week's top 10 with me and Robbie. Appreciate you watching. Stay minty fresh. Peace.